All right, hi again, everybody. Give me one more sound check, make sure we're good to go. See a whole bunch of you logged in here the last few minutes. Hey, Colonel, hey, everybody. All right, let's get started. Like always, I want to keep these to an hour so that everybody can enjoy their evening. As you know, I'm big on enjoying your free time and not taking too much time trying to do what you, even if it is something you love in trading. Tonight's title, I hope I did not mislead anybody. I kind of goofed up on the title. I was tossing a couple around to try and get the point across, and I really was going with something like, do we need perfect charts or something like that? And the title I ended up with, I hope it's not well, it's the same lecture no matter what the title is. And I'm going the same way. You'll just have to see when we get through it what the point of all this is. I love perfect charts, but I want to talk about what perfect charts are. That's the main thrust of it for tonight, and I will gladly also take any questions and refer you to a whole lot of other sources of information where you can get some examples of perfect charts. So let's get going for tonight. Welcome, everybody. I assume most of you know me. If you know me, if you're new, please make sure you do stop by the website and just check it out. There's a lot of free stuff there. I know that a lot of you who are here and are not maybe trading for a living or officially doing a whole lot on your own. You're either, one of three categories. You're either brand new and you're just kind of, trading curious, or you're new and you're proceeding and you're trying to figure out how to proceed in a way. Do you want help, need help, whatever it is? Or three, you've been at it a while and you're struggling or have failed once already and you love it and you want another swing at the ball, if so to speak. Hey, Mohammed. And I understand wherever you are in that process. I want to just make it clear. I'm here to help you for whatever you need if I can. I understand it may not ever work out for some people. And I mean that seriously. There's a lot of free stuff that you can do at the site there. There's a free stuff page that I keep adding to. And I know a lot of you like visiting that and checking out the stuff there, and that's great. And I also have opened the door to you guys if you're new and you're doing some trades and you want to get some input on them. Even if you're not signed up with anything with me at all, you can feel free to email me and ask me to review the trades you're doing, and I can give you some answers based on what I think they are. So feel free to do that. You have my email. I just ask that you simply send me the symbol, the entry, the exit, the stop, your strategy, whatever you called it or what it was supposed to do in writing. I don't want charts. I don't want to see your charts with a little scribbling all over them. That drives me crazy. So I have my own charts. Just send me what you did. Naturally, I do this for my students all if they want, and I'll jump in the chat room with them. But for anybody else, I mean, I'll gladly give you input on a few trades if you're just trying to get a general direction, if you're in the right track, of course. I know a lot of people will never have the time to feel it necessary to learn some of this. That's fine. We all have our own things, what we want to do. And I know some of you are just kind of hanging around for a while and eventually will come around. A lot of people hang around for weeks and they decide to join the room or to take a seminar or whatever. That's great too. So check it out. This is what we're going to talk about tonight. Oh, by the way, also on my homepage, let me just zip this out here. Make sure you read down at the bottom if you don't know me at all. I have some warnings down at the homepage. I want you guys to make sure you read whatever you decide to do. This is the let me just toss these out here real quick. Sorry about this. I should have had these all set to go. This is the free stuff page. You can just go to the home page and click on free stuff. It's obvious where it is. But also when you get a chance, just go read the warning that I have down on the lower part of the home page. You got to scroll down until you see the words warning. Okay. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do tonight. What is a perfect pattern? Can we agree? What is the goal to play only perfect patterns? And what do perfect patterns have in common? Sounds like a pretty simple topic for tonight, doesn't it? Sounds very simple. Let's see what we got here. In order to make a point for tonight, I want to give you guys a little test. I actually did this with my seminar class on the weekend. I hadn't done it for a long time, actually, and when I've done this in the past, it's fairly impressive, and it brings across a really important point. And I think that point ties in with tonight really, really well. You may not agree, but we'll have to see what you think. If everybody ready? Take a test. Everybody ready? You're going to have to answer two questions, and they're both theoretically yes or no questions. You could type more than yes or no if you want to for the first one, but actually the first one's yes or no and the second one is A and B, so it's pretty simple. All right. If you've seen me do this test before, feel free to participate, but don't ruin it for anybody. I don't think you can ruin it really, but here we go. Ready? Watch the screen. That's a car. It's driving. You're driving down the road and you run into an obstacle. Do you get past it? Answer, please, right now. Answer. Go. As fast as you can. Just answer the question. You're driving down the road and you get in an obstacle. Do you get past it? Answer. You can answer any way you want, but don't ask any questions. I'm not going to answer. Keep going. Keep going. Unless you're eating, well, even if you're eating dinner, it doesn't take much to type a Y or an N. That's pretty easy. If you're driving down the road, I'd prefer if you just skip this test. That's okay. Variety of answers. Some yeses, some nos. All right. Interesting answers. Ready for my answer? Here's my answer. The only wrong answer was yes or no. Why is the only wrong answer yes or no? Well, because I think it depends on at least one of two things. So let me ask you that question. Most of you said it depends, and you actually did. See, I knew that before you said it because I had it typed on the screen. So here's the real question. It depends on what? Here you go, Frank. It depends on what? A or B? A, what you're driving, B, what the obstacle is. Now here you have to put A or B. There is no other answer. A or B. Well, that wasn't the real question, Colonel. It was to set you up for this one. There was no right or wrong on the first one. Well, I said that was wrong, but I mean, just insufficient information. So B, 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 very B group. This is the B group. The A group's not here. All B's? You're all saying B. I've never seen that before. The only rules are you have to pick A or B on this one. The first one I said you could say whatever you want. And there's a reason I did that for the first question and for this one. There is really no wrong answer. I just meant simply that most people want to know the conditions. What are we talking about? Okay. All right, so here's the point. It says you guys are done with your part. So let me make a statement now. Naturally, both matter, of course, what you're driving, what the obstacle is. But what does your brain focus on for you? Not anyone's brain. What did your brain focus on is the question. Now I'm going to make a statement here. And when I'm done, I'd like you to give me a rating like 1 to 10 how accurate I was with you. For those of you who said it depends what the obstacle is, which was most of you, and especially put an asterisk next to your rating if you said something about the obstacle in the first answer when I asked you, what it is. If you said not yes or no or it depends, but if you said it depends how big the obstacle is, a couple of you said that, put an asterisk by your answer. But here's my prediction for you, that if your answer ended up being what the obstacle is, you probably, and again, if you're not trading at all, then you can't answer this, but if you've been trading at all or even playing around, you probably like breakout. If you put what is the obstacle, then you probably like breakout plays. You probably love stocks at new highs. You maybe are a little impatient getting to targets. Every dip that a stock takes on the way to a target is like a punch in the gut. A scale of 1 to 10, for those of you that said, only those of you that said, it depends what the obstacle is, how accurate was that, do you think, and just a general rating of who you are as a trader? Again, not going to get everybody right, but generally this is really impressive. Give me a rating 1 to 10. Like 10 would be, yeah, that right here, this list describes me perfectly, and yeah, I said I'm worried about what the obstacle is. 0 would mean just, no, Paul, that's not me at all. I said I'm concerned about the obstacle, but that doesn't describe me at all. Very few of you actually put, depends on what you're driving. If you put what are you driving, you most likely like to have pullback entries of some kind. You probably pay a lot of attention to higher time frames, and you probably have better than average patience in managing. I lost track how many of you, at least 1 or 2 of you said this answer. How's the rating on that for those of you that I said that for? Resistance areas on a chart, or whether you're focused on the power of the pattern that you are doing or that you're using. Also, if you're in the second category, if you day trade, you probably focus on gaps somewhat too. But the point of this is that we all have a different perception, regardless of how accurate I wasn't what you thought of the test. We all have a different perception right there. I mean, to say what a perfect pattern is, those of you who said, I care 100% what I'm driving, and as opposed to those of you who said 100% I care what the obstacle is, are you going to agree on what a perfect chart pattern is? If a person from this side of the equation, this side, are you going to agree on what a perfect chart pattern is? No, there's no chance. And here's the big question. Which one of you is right? If you don't agree, if there are perfect patterns and you disagree, who's right? The person who cares what the driving or the person who cares what the obstacle is? Who's right? Well, yeah, obviously they're both right. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Right. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It's not a matter of perfect. It's a matter of our perception of what's perfect. Certainly there's a framework of great chart patterns, but perfection is not a whole lot different than saying what your perfect mate is. What if I asked all of you tonight to send me your single most perfect chart pattern for tomorrow? If I asked all of you in here to send me your most perfect chart pattern for tomorrow, do you think I'd get even one duplicate chart? Even if I restricted it to 100 symbols, do you think I'd get a single duplicate? No, I don't think I would either. And you say, okay, well, this group, maybe, we're not all trained the same, and maybe there's novices and new people and good people, and who knows. But what if I pulled together 10 of what I wouldn't even know who they are, but who I'd consider to be the best traders, or if somebody pulled together, the 10 best traders that you could find, do you think they would agree on what the best chart is for tomorrow? In other words, is the answer that you have to be trained a certain way? And I agree. I don't think there would be. On some days, if I said here's 100 daily charts, find the best daily chart for tomorrow, and there was one that really stood out, there's probably a couple, 3 people that I think I'd agree with. I think it could happen, but I think on the normal day, you're just not going to see that. As a matter of fact, it's an interesting topic in this book, and I referred to this book before. You may have heard me talk about it. And it's not that I think it's the greatest book in the world, but it makes a couple of great points. This book probably doesn't help you to trade in the sense that it teaches you things about technology or psychology, about technical patterns or psychology. I read it so long ago, maybe I forgot, maybe it does. But what I pull out of this book were 2 things, and one of them was what we're talking about right now, is that this guy Schwager, he went on, he tried to interview 25 traders. He was not a trader. He was like a behavioral psychologist type person. That's not what he was, I don't think, but that's what he tried to do, is to understand and mimic the actions of successful people to just learn how to do it. And he was trying to find, the main goal was to find the common technical concept these guys all did. And you know what he found out? That they all did something different. They all did something completely. Is that amazing? Each trader is based on, right, true. But isn't that amazing though, that every one of these traders, the thing they had in common was that they were all unique. Yeah, I really do think it's amazing. It was one of those things that, and this is the reason I remember this book. That's what I take from. There are 2 things I took from this book, and that's one of them I still remember all these years later. And it's something that I really took to heart. It's kind of a big part of the goal for tonight and me talking to you. What is a perfect pattern? Is the goal to play perfect patterns? So we all have a perception of what perfect is. How often do you find perfect? How often do you find perfect? Is that the most important thing? Only after the fact. If you find the perfect pattern, whatever that is, let's say there is such a thing at the moment, does it matter if that perfect pattern that you bring to the market with you or that you find during the trading day, what if it gives you no entry to speak of? The market opens and it's gone. It gaps up, it flies higher, flies lower. You never get a chance to do it. What if you have a perfect pattern, but it's a long and the market is falling? I'm still waiting for my Necco wafers. But thanks for keeping in touch with me. Seriously though, what if you have this perfect pattern and the next day the market is extremely bearish? Does that affect your decision to play it or not? Does that make it less perfect? Or does the definition of perfect have to encompass not only a chart, but maybe other charts as well too? You saw them in the store. What people are talking about is the fact that they have discontinued Necco wafers, the world's greatest candy. True, Colonel, anything may fail. We know that the goal of perfect is not to have 100%. The goal is to have the greatest odds that we can. And to do that, we all look for that perfect chart pattern. And everybody wants to understand and learn and be familiar with what is the perfect chart pattern. And part of what I'm getting to here is that there is no agreement as to what a perfect chart pattern is. Even if we did, it could be somewhat irrelevant. Look at this chart here. I want to make a point on this chart here that's really important. Let's say for whatever reason, many people agree this is the perfect chart pattern. Remember that test I gave you about, driving down the road a few minutes ago and whether or not you care about what you're driving or whether you care not about the obstacle, right? It's also always somewhat subjective. You've heard me talk before, and I don't want to do the talk now, that we try to make trading as objective as possible, but yet the truth of it is it always comes down to some subjectivity. That's what makes a market, is what it's called. People come to the market extremely subjective, and your goal in getting an understanding of charts and education is to make yourself as objective as possible, but it'll never be 100% objective. That's one of the things, all of you listening to me, I don't want to sound inappropriate. A lot of you are probably very good traders and some of you are new, but for those of you that are new or don't understand this yet, there are some things I have to tell you that are absolute facts. One of them is simply there's no such thing as a perfectly objective trading system, if that's what you want to call it. There is no such thing. There won't be ever. There won't be ever. It's impossible. There has to be some subjectivity involved. We can't have a poker game where everybody wins. We can't have a market where there are no losers. There are winners and losers. If there were a perfect system, there would be no winners and losers. The market would grind to a halt. Does everybody get that? It's just a fact, and it's one of those things that if you're new, I can save you months and years of goofing around if you just come to accept that fact that there is no holy grail in terms of some technical indicator or line on a chart or anything else. Does everybody agree with that? There is some subjectivity involved in trading and investing and whatever you want to call it. You can't avoid it. You never will. But we have to frame our brains as objectively as we can to analyze and to always interpret and get better all the time. Perfect is rare. And I want to make a comment to you that is really one of the hearts I want to get across tonight. And what makes a trader is dealing every day with what is almost perfect, what is the next best thing to perfect, and where to draw the line. There's always a line. Let me say that again. It's great to try and find what you believe to be perfect. Of course, what you believe to be perfect is going to be a combination of what you were taught, what you're trained, what you've learned, what you've incorporated, etc. And it's great to look for that. But as we all already have agreed, you're not going to find perfect. And if you do, it's extremely rare. So our goal every day really becomes more how to deal with the fact that we have to trade something less than perfect. What are the rules? How close to perfect? What can be right? What can be wrong? What can be off? How do we do it? How do we handle it? Does that make sense? I mean, it's maybe a little mystical point, but it's one of the most important things I'm probably trying to get across to you. Here's the point I want to make on this chart here. Let's say a bunch of us have agreed that this is a perfect pattern. Okay? Let's say we've agreed this is a perfect pattern. We've decided that this stock is going higher. Now, I'm not even showing you, this is a 5-minute chart. So I'm not even showing you the bigger time frame, and this would be like for a day trader. It could be for a swing trader who wants to get it in at a certain point. We see this and we agree that we love this. Okay? The guy who is the perfect pattern person who said, I care about the obstacle more than anything else, where's that person going to enter this trade? Where's this person going to enter this trade? Well, if we care about the obstacle, if I don't want anything above me, right, and we started the day with a huge red bar, right, again, I think most of you are answering the other question. Maybe I said it backwards. Sorry if I did. But I'm asking, if you're the guy who cares about the obstacle in the road, if you're the guy that cares about resistance, you're the guy that wants always new breakouts, new highs, etc., where are you going to play this? You're going to play this as it breaks to that new high, right? You have a topping tail into the prior high. Boom, boom, boom. Well, that's a good point, Carmen. Yeah, depending on the time frame, what do you expect? Carmen made a real good point that you could play this to get to the obstacle. That's an excellent point. True. Very, very, very good point. And maybe that's all the person needs. Maybe the person is good with that. Again, it depends on what your beliefs are. Can we get to the obstacle, or that obstacle cause things to fall? But also, if you did that, maybe because of your beliefs, you're scared out right here. But if you did that in this case, my point is that all that great confirmation of thinking, boy, I'll wait all the way to the high of the day, and you get in there, and then you're stopped out, or you have a terrible trade going. And maybe after you're out, it comes back, and it would have made maybe a little bit of money. The question then becomes, well, okay, if this was a perfect pattern, did I play it terribly? What about somebody who is more caring about what I'm driving rather than what the obstacle is, and they get in down here, And I'll show you a different chart in just a minute that shows you why you might get in there. And think of how everything changes if you do that. Because now you take targets, on the way up into the obstacle, and now you have a free mind to hold some for a bigger move. Whoops, for a bigger move. Right, so when the play does go higher, even though it didn't make a lot of money from the high of the day, it made a lot of money from the bottom of the base. So again, the perfect chart, is it what you do with the perfect chart, or is it the perfect chart? Do we spend our time trying to get from the 96 rating of perfection on a chart and get up to 99? Is that going to make us more money? Or is sticking with the 99 perfection, but maybe learning different ways to handle it, is that going to make a difference? Actually, what I just said there, I didn't plan on saying, but I really liked what I just said. Let me say that again, because it ties in with another thing that I tell people a lot, and that is, if you're really good at looking at charts, right, and you find what you consider to be good chart patterns, but they're not working, you're not making money, does it make sense to spend all your time trying to improve a 95% rating on how good you are at charts to make it a 98% rating? Is that going to make any difference at all? Or does it make sense to say, wait a minute, I have these charts, but what am I doing with them? How am I treating them? How am I handling? How am I looking at everything else that goes into trading? Because trading, investing is more than looking at a single chart. Can perfect patterns work in a vacuum? Can you take a chart on one time frame and use it to make money? And the answer is yes, if it is truly perfect, whatever that means. But that is so rare that we always, as traders, want to look at other things to help us make the decision, to confirm the information. And that may be, I'm going to list them at the end here. It could be higher time frames, lower time frames, whatever it is. This chart that you're looking at right here that isn't through with you, it may be something you saw before, because I just stole this off of this week's Trade of the Week. And what I want to show you is, see, I don't want to, sometimes I go through a lot of charts, and I don't want to spend today, and this is where I hope I didn't mislead you, I don't want to spend today scanning, looking for what we call perfect charts, because they don't exist. Because I do that with you, even if you're not a member of anything, if you're a member of DTS, every other Monday, right? We get together, we look at daily charts, right, Colonel? You're here every other Monday, correct? Tell everybody yes. We go through charts. I go through them with you. I try to look for perfect patterns. I don't hold anything back. I answer your questions. I take your questions, correct? That's what we do on those nights. And naturally, I'm answering questions. It's not quite the same as getting a 24-hour discussion about why I like or don't like every single thing, but trying to give you an idea of what it is that I look for. Today, in this lecture, it's more about what are we doing, or what is the point of perfect patterns at all? What are we doing with them? And if you want other examples, thanks, Dave. If you want other examples, again, go to the resources page, and this is this week's Trade of the Week video. If you've never seen one before, I take and I'm talking. It's about 3.5 minutes each, and I go through and I'm talking and I'm saying, here's this chart, and I say, here's why I like this one this week, and it's usually it's not necessarily the biggest winner, but it's usually a great technical concept I love. It's what I call, these actually are a collection of what I would call my favorite chart patterns, what I would consider to be closest to perfect. And like this chart, the whole reason I had it, and again, I saved this chart before this day. This starts the trading day, so I'm looking at this as the trading day opens. And I had saved this because this is what I look for. And again, you're not seeing right here all the time frames, but it's a daily chart that's been in an uptrend, that's in a stage one, that's hourly chart is just breaking above prior resistance, then it consolidates here on minor support. So I'm looking for it to fall into this area. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So to me, this is a perfect chart. It's a minor support / major support area that is falling into. We have 9:35 reversal time first thing in the morning, and boom, and it gives me the confidence to come in and take that's the open, but to take entries off that support area. Took some on the way down, some on the way up, and then take half the shares into that obstacle up there, and then hold half to the end of the day. So I go through and I talk. So if you want a lot of examples of what I consider to be great, go look at some of my Trade of the Week videos. I have them, I still have them all up there since I started, and I sometime I have to take some of those down or archive them or something, because they're getting to be too many up there. And I still, want to give you the warnings. I know a lot of you, this is all you can do because you're busy doing something else or working another job or whatever it is, and you're trying to learn what you can. But you know, be very careful and start off with slow risk, small risk, and you know, ask for help if you need help, because the intent of these is to kind of show off what you can do with good technical knowledge. But the intent is not, it can't be in a 3-minute video. The intent is not to teach you everything that there is to know if you don't know it already. If you do know it, it could be a great review, could be great ideas, could be great concepts. Okay, so check out that page if you want to. You won't miss them. They're all over the top part of the page, and there's other stuff on there as well too. Let's get back and talk. Here's the paging. Let's get back and talk about what we do want to see, just generally speaking. There may not be agreement, and there never will be agreement as to exactly what a perfect pattern is. But there are some things that I do want to get across to you, I think. And a couple of these things, again, I'm going to sound really kind of mean and nasty if you don't know me, because I think for a lot of making money, those of you that know me know there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I'm never going to say, hey, it's my way or the highway, it's the only way. But there are some rules that I think that absolutely are true. And I'm going to tell you some of those. I'm going to tell you that you will never make money doing this. And again, I tell you to help benefit you, because you may not believe me, but if it sticks in your head after enough failures, maybe you'll start to think about it and believe me, because these are things that I just know to be true after a long time doing this. So as discussed, there's no final checklist, but here are some considerations. Perfect patterns, what do they have in common? To me, perfect patterns always involve a higher time frame and a lower time frame, meaning that a chart has a difficult time existing in a vacuum. What looks like the most bullish pattern on one chart may be part of a bearish pattern on another chart. And using the small nuances that can be found on lower time frames to help you make your decision on the time frame you're on, I think is critical. So the concept of looking at multiple time frames to make your decision, I think, is critical, and how they all tie together is critical. And as I say that, I always think, gee, this is just such a big piece of the puzzle. Everybody should get this. And yet, when I hear people try and analyze this or send me charts that are pulling different time frames together, sometimes they're just so far off, at least in what I think they should be doing. I don't think it's a complicated issue, but yet people seem to struggle with it, about what is it that we want to see across multiple time frames to make a pattern work. I use terms like, you know, the sweet spot of the upper time frames, where we want to be in the smaller time frame, just to talk in English. But naturally, there's a whole little mini science we go through when I teach this stuff. But again, it's not really rocket science, but at the very least understand that whatever you're looking at, it exists in a bigger pattern. Your little ripple on the pond or in the lake is going to get drowned by the wave when the wave comes in. The trade of the week examples. Okay, they're also good things. They are based on either following a trend on the time frame reference, or they're based on shock value. Another lecture that I've done talks about the fact that there are only 2 times when we have an edge. There are only 2 times when we have an edge. Remember, I not only believe, but I'm here to tell you as a fact, that 95 to 97% of the time, the stock, the market, whatever you're looking at, on whatever time frame you're looking at it, it is what? Can anybody fill in the blank for me? 95, 97% of the time, stocks, the market, chart patterns on all time frames are what? Nothing would be a compliment. Yeah, they're garbage. They're a mess. Can't recognize a pattern. They're just all over the place. And trying to force one of those patterns to be something interesting or tradable is where I think a lot of people go wrong. There are 2 times, only 2 times, that we really have an edge, and that is when we're following some kind of structured trend. And remember, trends can be up, down, sideways. They can be transitioning. There are lots of things that they can be doing, but they have to be falling into a certain pattern. And all stocks do fall into that pattern in hindsight. This is the trick. In hindsight, you can go back and look at any chart, and I can give you the cycles it went through and tell you when it transitioned, but it is so sloppy, it is so all over the place that you can't play it with any precision. So we want to find those chart patterns that are so precise because of buyers or sellers or a very distinguished battle that's coming in that makes it obvious. By the way, while 84.2% of all statistics are made up on the spot, and while only 42.3% of people believe that they're made up on the spot, that 97% number I just gave you actually is pretty real, because that's what I use from when I scan for charts. I tell people all the time, I look at 1,000 charts and I save at most 30 symbols. And I cut that in half usually when I'm done looking at them a second time, which means that literally 97% of stuff that I look at, I don't look at more than a half a second and I move on because it doesn't strike me as a pattern. Now, that does not mean that it may not move the next day for some reason. See, I, listening to me, we don't make chart patterns, right? Big money makes chart patterns. When they decide to make a chart pattern, it starts to form, and that's what we get interested in. And somebody tomorrow could make a chart pattern out of nothing. There could be this heap of garbage sitting there, a chart pattern that means absolutely nothing, and all of a sudden, boom! Wow, look at that! All of a sudden, we have a chart pattern. The most bearish chart pattern in the world, when you get above it, all of a sudden is very bullish. Things can happen, but until that happens, we have nothing to look at. This is why they're either based on trend, the time frame of reference. That means the time frame you're trying to trade it, or they're based on shock value. Shock value means something drastic happened all of a sudden that changes things and really makes a permanent change. And permanent being for the day, for the week, for the month, whatever it is you're trading. And that happens for a variety of reasons. It happens because of sudden moves or because of gaps in the chart. These are the things that give us really good odds. What is not ever going to be work? Well, finding perfect chart patterns has nothing to do with technical indicators. And I know this is one of those that some of you may not like me for saying, but the sooner you realize it, the better. Now, I am not against, I use a couple of moving averages, and they are technical indicators. So I'm not saying you can't ever put one on a chart. And you may have another indicator that you want to use. Now, technical indicators are fine. And by technical indicators, I'm talking about, MACD and stochastics and all this cool stuff. You could, my God, I bet you if you Google technical stochastics, I bet you could find 3,800 articles about stochastics and how great they are. And they're not. They're nothing special at all. They are simply a derivative of the price that's on your stock on your screen already. It takes the price you're looking at, it does some mathematical computation, it draws another line, and it says, ooh, gee, this line is magic. Well, it's not. Technical indicators are great for scanning. If you use a scanner, you probably want to use a technical indicator to find a list of symbols, and that's what they're good for, to take 2,000 stock symbols out there and boil it down to 30. Which symbols are at least 8% extended above the 20-period moving average? Here's 20 symbols. Let me look at them. You may also want to use it to exclude a trade. You may say, on this breakout, I will not go long if the stochastic is above 80. Okay, I don't care why you exclude a trade. You could exclude a trade if you smell coffee in the air, or if you see your neighbor walking down the street, you could exclude a trade for all I care. But the point is, don't ever base a trading strategy on some technical indicator giving you a buy or sell signal, because there really is no such thing. Okay, does that make sense? And again, you may not like me for saying that. Please send me your indicator that works so well. It's not out there. It's just not. It's not that simple. If it was, I'd use it myself. People send me stuff all the time. I'd say, hey, what a great thing. I'll just use this. But it's not. I use 95 indicators. I suggest you go to 96 if you're having trouble. That'll probably help you. Indicators are based on closing a certain number of periods. And they look at the past. Right. Well, they're not all based on the closing or whatever, but yes, they all look to the past. That's exactly right. Yeah. Now, there are some things that, don't confuse them. There are some things that are not technical indicators, technically speaking. Like the VIX. The VIX is not a technical, people call it, but it's not. It's a new piece of information. There are things that give us new information, bring new info to the table that are technically oriented, like the VIX or whatever. But I'm talking about any indicator that is a derivative of past price action, right? Yeah, floor trader pivots are a technical indicator. They're derived from a formula. It's all they are. It's a formula. I know the formula. It's, I mean, you can Google it. I don't know it by heart, but I know it's a formula. I've seen the formula. It doesn't mean anything. It's again, any reference point is nice to say, hey, here the world is looking at something. Let's see how it handles it. And I have no problem with that, because that's what we do as chart readers. We see how areas are handled. I'm just saying you don't go long or short based on any of those things. You will lose, and you will continue to lose, period. And again, for some of you who've not heard my extremely strong views on this, because I just know they are right, when I say you, I'm talking to all but 1 in 10,000 of you. All but 1 in 10,000 of you You will never make money analyzing fundamentals, earnings, or the economy. You may think you have in the past. I mean, you can trick yourself. You can take a stock that you didn't even know was in an uptrend in a bullish market and just think the whole world is bullish and you want to buy something, so you analyze the stock and you say, boy, this is great earnings, I'm going long, and that stock along with 72 other stocks all went higher the next week. I mean, but that's not really making it. When you live through bullish markets, bearish markets, when you come out on top through a whole variety of situations because you're analyzing what's going on and you consistently analyze things, that's when you know what's going on, not because you randomly found a good stock and you don't even know why it was a good stock. Somehow, your chart, once you find it, it also has to incorporate the concept of entries and targets. In other words, you can find patterns that you may say, gee, they're going higher. In the room sometimes, somebody will throw out a symbol. The stock's been up for 13 straight bars. It's going to new highs everywhere, and it's up 13 bars in a row, nonstop. I go, okay, yes, this is a strong stock. It is. I'm not in it, and I don't know what to do with it right now. I mean, obviously we can save it, we can look at it, we can look to find an entry. So the chart pattern also has to incorporate what you're going to do with it, how you're going to get in without unlimited risk, how you're going to make money based on that risk amount, because you can't make money without defining what your risk is. So all this has to be incorporated into it too. They also are proven to you from your own back test of past trades. Now this is a tricky one here too, and again, here's another thing that some of you may not be hearing or may be hearing for the first time. There is no such thing as back testing a strategy, so to speak. I don't know how much I want to get into this, but there's no such thing. I know there's back testing software you can buy, but to back test a strategy like that, you are taking a precise, purely objective technical concept and going backwards with it. And you'll never find something that's going to make you money consistently. It's just not going to happen. In other words, you can take and say, there's software all over that'll say, okay, anytime a stock trades above the high of the last 6 days, I want to go long with the stop below the low of the last 4 days, and my target will be 1.5 times that difference. And whatever it is, whatever magical formula somebody's come up with, that's the magic elixir. You can plug that in and backtest and say, okay, boy, here's the results. Okay, good, let's tweak it and tweak it. Going forward, it's not going to work. If it did, guess what? I'd have one of those out and I'd be using it. Backtesting, what it really means is for you to take your trades and to perfect your concepts by going backwards and seeing what you could have done or tweaked, because the subjectivity you use is what you're really trying to backtest and tweak. In other words, you got in and used this certain management policy. Well, what if I would have used this management policy? What if I would have taken targets in 3 sections instead of 2? What if I would have taken some of the target at the high of the day instead of waiting longer? What if I would have taken some of the target as soon as I was up $200, regardless of what the trade? All these things are things that you can perfect in your own trading. What if I didn't take the first entry ever that I want to take? What if I waited for the next entry? What if I gave my stop X percentage more room? All these things are things that you can improve your trading greatly by looking at. This is what backtesting is about. It's backtesting your own personal subjective things you put into the chart. And lastly, what do they have in common? They're reproducible. You can describe and find them. What do we call that when you see a strategy and you do it and it works well, and the next day you're able to go find the exact same thing, and the next day you can find the exact same thing, and in between you can look at 100 chart patterns and say, no, that's not the same thing. No. What do we call that? I mean, I called it reproducible, but what else is it? What have you done when you're able to go find the same pattern over and over and be able to exclude 99% of the charts you look at because it's not the pattern you want to see? Filtering, but you can filter any one day, right, Joe? You can filter any one day. It's not as complicated as you guys think. You can filter one day, but then tomorrow, what if your filters are skewed? What if your filters are different? What if the chart's different and allows different filters in? I guess you could say you have the same filters, but you can't have all identical filters, or else then you're back to using a purely objective system. The answer is simple. is that you have developed a plan, a trading plan. In other words, you have taken what you want to do with the stock, with the symbol, based on what you've learned, based on the technical analysis you've learned, and you've made it your own. You've perfected it to the sense that you can say, here is what I look for, here is what I want to do, and you are consistent enough in finding every day that you know exactly what it is you want to see. You can look at, yeah, it's rules put together in a logical format that you follow, that you can understand, and that are objective enough that you can say yes or no, this meets the requirements of what I want to do. Eventually, all this stuff, has to kind of form a picture in your head. Password for tonight. It has to form a picture in your head of exactly what it is you want to do. Because you can't pull up a chart very realistically and go through a checklist of 32 things and see if everyone is met. I mean, you can, but it takes a heck of a long time. And rather, at some point, while we start off with this checklist, eventually this checklist becomes a picture in our head of exactly what it is we want to do. And that just comes from experience and practice. But initially, this has to be spelled out in a way that you can look at chart patterns and find what it is you want to do, and find it day after day or chart after chart, and be able to exclude the others and say, no, that is not what I'm looking for right now. That is not it, because this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. And yeah, I understand it may work. I understand it may go higher, it may go lower, but that is not what I want to do right now. That is not what has worked for me. That's not where my comfort level is. Because remember, all these things then have to fit in with our perception of what we think is perfect, what our comfort level is in terms of if we're driving a truck, if we're running into boulders or rocks or wooden fences. All these things play a part in what we do. Keep in mind also, guys, that you think 100% in pictures. Whether you know it or not, you think 100% in pictures. You don't just have the ability to think in pictures. You can only think in pictures. And that's why just kind of a little bit of practice looking at charts and putting together the verbal requirements of what you are and finding them on charts and printing out pictures of charts and printing out pictures of trades that have worked well and identifying why they work well because they met the requirements you wanted. That here was the support area and here's you got in right off the support area. And here was a clear area for it to run to, and here was what the market was doing at the time, and all these things you want to put together. Again, all the things that you simply teach as a cohesive strategy in terms of learning and understanding the language of charts. But even after you know it, they have to come together in a way that you can understand, interpret it, and find charts. Okay. But I was just bringing up the point that in the bottom line, when you make a decision, you end up speedily you're always looking at pictures of what it is you want to do. Like if I ask you, what are you doing for dinner tonight? Right now you all pictured something in your head, right? You have to admit you did, whether it was your family dinner table or local restaurant or a bar or Subway or whatever it was, you pictured whatever your perception is of dinner, whatever your mindset is for what dinner is, you pictured that, and that's what your mind recognizes dinner. You didn't see the words D-I-N-N-E-R. You didn't process binary code. You didn't get Morse code. I mean, you saw a picture of what it was. And when you think about it, any time somebody's telling you an event, a story, a question, whatever it is, you are floating pictures through your head like a movie screen. Colonel, you got that from me, except I use pink elephant, not zesty lemon. A couple of you are chatting me. I don't want to get into any sales stuff. I'm here to kind of help you guys. You guys know what I do. I don't want to get any sales stuff. You know what I want to do, what I said I was going to do? Somebody asked me a bunch of questions here. Down in the folder, there are some descriptions about the services I offer. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send an email out to everybody. Thursday, I'm doing a thing with the seminar students Thursday night. We're doing a scanning session. Thursday at 5 o'clock. I'm going to send an email out to you guys, to your members, and just tell you, I'm going to come into a room Thursday at 5 just for a question and answer. It's not going to be an educational thing. I'll make it very clear. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be exciting. It's going to be question and answers just because I've been getting a lot of questions about services because I started the long-term trader letter and about the room and about seminars, and I think I have everything very clear, but I'm getting a bunch of questions and stuff. So I'm going to just invite everybody to come, and if you have questions about any of that stuff, about whatever it is, you can just ask me. Maybe I'll be there all by myself. That'll be fine. Okay. Thank you. I am done. So have a good one, guys. Talk to you.